You ever get that, like, really thirsty and you just gulp down some water and it's just, like, perfect, crisp, clean, refreshing.
Oh, yeah.
But then, you stop and think for a sec, what's actually in there?
Yeah.
Like, all that invisible stuff we don't even think about. Makes you wonder, right?
It does. It makes you realize we kind of take clean water for granted. The reality is it's way more complicated than we think. And the more we learn about all the stuff that can be in there, microplastics, heavy metals, it's like we got to be smarter about cleaning it up.
Totally.
Mm.
And that takes us to this Deep Dive MeiRaveh, this Israeli company. They've been doing home water purification for over 3 decades.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Back in '88, they were just getting started. What was even going on in water purification back then?
Well, think about it. In the late 80s, everyone was starting to freak out about the environment, right? Like what was in their food, what was in the air, what was in their water.
Yeah.
MeiRaveh was one of the first, at least in Israel, to really key into that and actually offer solutions for people at home.
So they were ahead of their time, kind of like the pioneers of, water purification.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Early on, they understood that clean water wasn't a luxury, it was essential for your health. And their whole thing, I was looking at their website, it's all about high quality purification, systems tailored to your needs, and all of that.
Interesting.
And they're not just about, yanking out the bad stuff, which they do really well, but they actually want to keep the good stuff in there too.
Okay, now you got to explain this to me. What's the good stuff in water?
Minerals. All the good stuff. Calcium, magnesium, potassium.
Oh, right.
And here's a fun fact. Your body actually absorbs them better from water than from food.
Wait, seriously? I had no idea. So like all those sports drinks with electrolytes and all that, maybe we should focus on our tap first.
Exactly. More and more research is coming out about how important mineral-rich water is for your bones, your muscles, everything. And MeiRaveh gets that. They're really on top of the science.
So how do they do that? How do they get rid of the bad and keep the good? What's the magic trick?
It's not really magic, more like a multi-layered system, right? They use a bunch of different purification methods, and each one targets a specific thing, but without stripping away those minerals.
Right, now you're just teasing me. Let's break this down layer by layer. How do they even start? Okay, so walk me through this. What's the first thing they do?
Basically, imagine like this super fine sieve that's catching all the tiniest stuff. That's what mechanical microfiltration is.
Okay, so just a really, really good filter. What kind of stuff are we talking about here?
Yeah, exactly. It grabs all that, like sand, rust, little bits of sediment that can make your water look all cloudy.
Right.
It's kind of cool. You can actually see the difference.
I can see that, yeah,
So
especially if your house have old pipes or you're on well water or something. But what about all the stuff you can't see? The invisible stuff we talked about before.
Right. That's where this next layer comes in activated carbon filtration.
Hmm.
Imagine activated carbon is like a sponge, but on a like way smaller level.
Okay.
It's super porous, so it's got all these little spaces that can trap chlorine, chemicals, pesticides, even heavy metals.
Yeah.
Lead, for example.
Wait, seriously? Lead? That's in the water too. I always thought that was like an old paint problem.
It's a big deal, especially for little kids, right? Or pregnant women. Lead's not something to mess with.
Wow, yeah.
Even small amounts can cause problems, so getting it out of your drinking water is it's crucial, really.
Yeah, no kidding. But you said this activated carbon doesn't take out the good minerals. How does it, like, tell the difference?
It's kind of like, you know how a magnet only sticks to certain things? It's like that. It's attracted to all that bad stuff and just grabs onto it. But the good minerals, the calcium and all that, they just pass right through.
Okay, that's pretty neat, actually. So we've got the tiny sieve and the selective magnet. What's the last layer?
This is where it gets really cool. They hit it with UV light.
Really? Like a little tanning bed for the water?
Lofts, kind of. But this UV light is strong. It kills off bacteria, viruses, anything that can make you sick.
Makes sense. But doesn't chlorine usually do that?
It does, yeah. Most cities use it in the water supply.
Right.
But UV light is like an extra layer of protection, especially for those, tough bacteria that chlorine might miss. And get this, MeiRaveh uses something called a continuous purification system.
Catchy name. What is that?
It's basically a system that runs all the time, 24/7. So even if something happens, like say there's a contamination issue, you're totally covered.
So it's having your own little water treatment plant at home. That's wild. Speaking of contamination, what about microplastics? They're like everywhere these days.
That's definitely a growing concern, yeah. Microplastics are so small, they slip right through normal filters. They get in everything.
That's kind of disturbing. So even with all this high-tech filtration, those tiny bits can still get through. It's a little freaky, right? You think you've got all the bases covered and then bam, microplastics.
Yeah, it's a whole other ballgame. And the thing is, we don't even really know the long-term effects of, drinking them all the time.
Exactly.
Ah.
Scary stuff. So are companies like MeiRaveh, are they doing anything about this? This feels like, I don't know, next level water purification or something.
Yeah, it's definitely a new challenge, but the good news is companies like MeiRaveh, they're already working on it, developing even better filters, ones that can actually catch those microplastics. They're ahead of the game.
Okay, that's good to hear. Honestly, this whole thing has made me think, like, I really take clean water for granted, you know?
It's easy to do.
You turn on the tap and expect it to be perfect, but there's so much going on behind the scenes to make that happen. All this tech, all this science.
It's true, and it's something we should all be more aware of. It's not just about the taste or even if it smells funny, it's about what you can't see, all that stuff that could be lurking in there.
Which is, I guess, the whole point of these deep dives, right?
Yep.
Learning about the stuff we don't even know to worry about.
Mhm.
And I think what's clear here is that home water purification, it's not just some fad. It's about taking control of your health, being proactive.
Exactly. The more you know about what's in your water and how to get it out, the better choices you can make for you, your family, everyone.
It's about taking that extra step,
Right.
right? Being informed so you can have peace of mind knowing the water you're drinking is, actually good for you.
Exactly. So here's something to think about. Knowing all this now, how do you feel about that glass of water you drink every day?
It definitely makes you stop and appreciate it, right? It's like even the simplest things, they have these whole stories behind them. Sometimes the most important stuff is the stuff you can't even see.